Hello, this is a tutorial for InDesign about page setup, and it's based on the assignment Abstract Alphabet for Visual Communication, or LA 5581. This assignment has you do two tasks. The first one is to generate content, in this case, the photos of your letters, which you're going to capture. And once you do that, the second task is to lay them out on a poster. The assignment sheet gives you very specific indications about how to lay them out. So this is actually a very easy part of the assignment. I'm going to walk you through the steps of how to set up your page according to the instructions. We're going to, first of all, create a folder in which we're going to store our files and work. I have created a folder here called the Abstract Alphabet, and inside this folder is where I'm going to keep all of my files. This is a good habit for working, because if I ever need to come back and find my files, I know that everything I need is going to be inside this folder. In this space is where I'm going to save my InDesign working file. And next to it, you can see that I've also created another folder called Letters. And that is where I'm going to be putting all 26 of my chosen letter photos. So far, I have 4 that I'm going to use for the tutorial. So once you set up your folders, you can open InDesign, and when you load InDesign, it's going to open into this window right here. You can click on this blue button for New File, or go to the menu at the top and click File, New Document. Both things take you to the same place, which is this new document window that has all the options for creating a new document. In the central part of the window, you can see it has a lot of custom sizes. And you can see that all these custom sizes are in a unit called a pica. That's what the P means. We're not going to be using picas because the assignment sheet gives me all the measurements for the page and margins in inches. So over here on the right side of the window, we're going to change units from picas to to inches. When you change that, you'll see that the width and the height is set to 8.5 by 11. That's a letter size sheet of paper. So we're going to change this based on the instructions of the assignment. We want a 24-inch width, 36-inch height, and the page, as you can see, is portrait orientation. So we're going to type 24 for the width, 36 for the height, and make sure that your orientation is portrait. Because this document only has one page, it doesn't matter whether the pages are facing or not. We only have one. And we're going to set up the rest of these options inside the file once we create it. So don't worry about the columns, margins, or gutter just yet. Click on Create, this blue button below, and give it a second to create the new document. There it is. You can see this is a 24 by 36-inch page. This part of the screen right here is called a ruler. And if you set up your units to inches, the ruler should also be in inches. Make sure you did that, otherwise you're going to be working in the wrong page size. Once you're in a document, if you ever want to change it again, just right-click on the ruler, and you can select a different unit here if you want to change it. I'm going to leave mine in inches. And the first thing I'm going to do before I forget is to save my file in the folder that I created for this project. So let me do that again. I went to the File menu. I clicked on Save As. Mac or Windows should have a similar, if not identical, a similar place. And I'm going to find the folder that I created for this to save this file. Here it is, my folder, the abstract alphabet, and this is where I'm going to save my working file. You can see the extension of an InDesign file is INDD, which means InDesign document. And I'm going to give it a name. It's going to be called the abstract alphabet. Hit save, and now the name updates, and that means that I'm saving my work in the folder where I want to. I'm going to give you a quick tour of InDesign interface. You have a menu at the top, several menus. We won't go over all of them in this tutorial. We have a toolbar. If you don't see the toolbar, you can go to the window menu and click on tools, and that will display or hide the toolbar. Go back to the window menu, click on tools again to display it if you don't see it. I also have another window over here called pages. This one lists all the pages in my document, currently only one. And because I'm only working with one page, I don't really need this menu for this project. This is very handy when you have a document with multiple pages. I have another two windows open here, one called layers, one called links, and you can see that these two are checked. Links right here, and layers if I click on it. I'll leave them open for now, but I don't really think I'm going to use them, so they're not in the way. Right now we have a page. If you hold down, if you select this tool at the top left of the toolbar, the selection tool, click on it to select it. It's this black arrow. You can select objects, but then because our page is empty, we don't have anything to select right now. What we can do is select the pan tool, which is this little hand, and then click and drag to pan around the page. We can use the magnifying lens and click to zoom in, or hold down the Alt key or its equivalent on a Mac, and see the magnifying lens changes to a minus from a plus. If you hold down Alt, it changes to a minus. Click to zoom out. A faster way of doing this, it doesn't matter in which tool you're in, is using the scroll wheel of the mouse and holding down the Control key or its equivalent on a Mac. I'm sorry, it's hold down the Alt key in Windows or its equivalent on a Mac. The same one we use for the magnifying lens. Hold down Alt and use the scroll on your mouse. Scroll up and down to zoom in or out. You can use the pan tool again to center the page, or these scroll bars at the bottom of the window. I'm going to set up my page just so that I can see the full page like this. And notice how inside the page I have these pink and purple lines along the edges. Those lines are not objects on my page, they are just guides indicating the margins of the page. I'm going to adjust those based on the indicated margins in the assignment sheet. And to do that, I'm going to go up here to the menu layout and open the second option, which is margins and columns. In this one, we can adjust the margins. If we go back to our assignment sheet, you'll see that the assignment calls for a 2.5-inch margin on all sides of the page. So let's do increase this. You can also type it in, select it and type it in is probably faster. But there it is, 2.5. Because this icon is checked in, this little chain link, when you change one of them, all the rest will change as well. If you deselect that, then you can change them individually. Keep it on to change them all at once. So let's do that first. Hit OK. And you can see the margins are now 2.5 inches wide all around the page. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create this grid of image boxes with a spacing in between, which is called the gutter, of 1/2 inch, because that's what the assignment sheet specifies. So we need 6 rows and 5 columns of image boxes with 1/2 inch gutters. Before we create the rows and columns of image boxes, we're going to go to the layout menu again, margins and columns, and make sure that your gutter is set to 1/2 inch. That's what this assignment specified. 1/2 inch gutters. Okay, there we go. And don't worry about these columns here. We're going to create the columns outside of this window. So hit OK once you specified the gutter. And now we're going to create the image boxes. Another word for image boxes is frames. In InDesign, they are called frames or image frames. And you can find them on the toolbar in this icon right here. It's a box with a cross inside it. So select that tool. I'm going to zoom in. Remember, hold down Alt and scroll up to zoom in. And I'm just going to click. If you click once, this window opens where you can specify the exact width and height of your window frame, which we don't know. The assignment sheet doesn't give me the exact width and height of the window frame, but we don't need it because we know we have to fit in 5 columns and 6 rows within the margin. So that, and we have the gutter measurement. So that's all the information we need. So instead of clicking once with the image frame tool, we're going to click and hold while you drag, and that creates one image frame. If you release, it creates the frame where you can drop photos in an image frame. An image frame is an object that you can go back to the select tool and click on it, and you can move it around. You can create a copy of it by right-clicking and selecting copy, and then you would select paste. You can create a copy. You can also create a copy by holding down the Alt key with the selection tool. Hold down the Alt key, click and drag to create a copy. Now, this is one way in which we could create all 26 image frames, but we would have to do a lot of guesswork, and we would probably not get it right to have them all be perfectly the same size and get the right number of columns and the right number of rows and the perfect alignment and spacing in between. So we don't want to do them one by one. We're going to use another function of the image frame tool. Going back to that image frame tool on the toolbar. We're going to use a function that allows us to create multiple image frames at once. And that is like this. You're going to go to the corner of your margins here. We're going to start in this corner, and we're going to click in this corner and drag down. So we create rows and columns of boxes at the same time. So in InDesign, go to your image frame tool, click and hold right at the corner, click, hold, and drag down to the opposite corner, and don't release yet. Make sure you're at the bottom corner. I'm holding down the left button of the mouse, and while you hold it, you're going to use your other hand on the keyboard. See, I released it by accident, so it generated the box. So I'm going to go to the select tool, select it, and delete it, and start over. Image frame, click, drag, and hold the left button, and with your other hand, you're going to use the keyboard and hit the arrows, up and down arrows. If you release the button, then it creates the image boxes, and that's not what we wanted yet. So I screwed up again because I released it. I think my mouse is a little sensitive. So I'm going to do it one more time. Click, drag, hold, and with my other hand, I'm going to push up on the arrows on the keyboard to create 6 rows, and then left and right adds or subtracts columns. So we want 5 columns and 6 rows, just like that. Once you have that, you can release the mouse, and that will generate the image frames. Because we specified the gutter at 1/2 inch, it automatically did the gutters for us, and it fit perfectly inside the margins, 5 rows of image frames and 6 rows. Sorry, 5 columns and 6 rows at the specified gutter. So that's starting to look a lot like our layout. What we need to do now, because we only have 26 letters, is we don't need these last 4 boxes. So using the selection tool, click and delete, hit delete on your keyboard, click and delete each one of these 4. You can also click and drag the selection so you can grab them all 4 at once, but it's pretty quick to do them one by one as well. We're almost finished with the layout. I'm gonna save my work so I don't lose anything that I've done so far. I should add that it is useful to have a function turned on that is called guides. So in the view menu, if you go to guides and grids and guides, and you check on snap to guides, that will help you when you are trying to click the image frame tool right on the margin. Having that tool on is going to snap to the margin. It's gonna, as soon as you get close, it's gonna snap right to the corner. So that's how I was able to click on it so precisely. And as I drag down over here, it also snapped to this corner, and I was able to get it exactly right. You can see how all these boxes are aligned perfectly to the left, right, and bottom margin. That's because I had my snap to guides option on. Should have said that at the beginning. Okay, I have all the boxes now. Going back to the assignment sheet, the only thing I'm missing now is this line of text. So we'll add that text window, and if you read the instructions up here, this specifies that the text must be in a single line using any font you want, black text color, and font size 12, and right alignment, not left or centered alignment. So we're going to create a text box. This one, you can click on the text tool in the toolbox. And once you have the text box, once you have that option activated, I'm going to zoom in a little closer to the bottom of the page. Remember to use the magnifying lens or use your Alt and scroll, mouse scroll, to zoom in to the areas where you're working so you have a better view. So I'm going to use the text tool, the type tool, to create a text box. And this doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to click, drag, and release. Hit the selection tool. And you can see there's my text box. It looks different than the image frames because this is not an image frame. This is a text tool. And this is another place where the Snap to Guides tool is going to come in handy. If you have that option on, you're going to be able to, using the selection tool, grab your text box and just move it over until it snaps right to the corner. That's it right there. It has snapped. I don't think it needs to be this big, so I'm going to grab it from this little grip, this square grip. Just click and drag it down to make it a little small, but it doesn't really matter. The next thing I'm going to do is click on it once with the selection tool, right click, and go to Text Frame Options. This opens a window. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't need to come in here. We will need to come in here at the end, but I went ahead of myself. What we need to do is open another window in the window menu, open the type and tables option, and then find paragraph. This opens this window, the paragraph tool. And at the top of the paragraph tool, you can see all the different types of text alignment. The one we need is align right. That's the one specified in the assignment. So click align right, and it should apply it, but let's see if it actually did it by adding some text. So I'm going to go back to the text tool, click in the text box once, and you can see the cursor appeared over here on the right. So yes, it already applied align right. I'm going to add, per the assignment instructions, I'm going to add the name of the assignment, my name, course number, and course name. So this is the abstract alphabet. It's a little hard to read, so I'm within the text tool. I'm still inside the text tool. I'm going to click and select the text. And while it's selected, I can go up to the top here and increase the size if I need it, but it's actually already 12 points. So that is what is required. So actually that is big enough. If I want to see it a little closer, I'm just going to have to zoom in using Alt and scroll and mouse scroll to get a little closer and be able to read it. Okay, so the abstract alphabet, my name, course number and course name. And let's go back and see what else. Name, course number, and course name. The last name of the instructor, semester, term, and year, and name of the university. So I'm going to add the last name of the instructor, fall 2022, Cal Poly, Pomona. That's all of the text I need. I can close this paragraph. Once you aligned it right, you can close it. Notice how I created my text box big enough for the text. If for some reason you didn't create a big enough text box, you're going to see that your text jumps to the second line. All you need to do is grab your text box from this grip on the left side, click, and drag it until all of it fits in one line, because that is also in a single line is one of the requirements. So I have all my text now. I can push it down by pulling down the top side of the text box, but it's never going to be quite perfect. The way to get it to be perfectly aligned with the bottom of the text box now is when we go to that option I was doing earlier. Using the selection tool, click once to select, just once, to select your text box. You see that it's selected when those grip points appear. Then right-click on it, and this menu will show up. Go to Text Frame Options, and change the vertical justification. Previously, we changed the horizontal justification. This time we're going to change the vertical justification to align from the top of the text box to the bottom of the text box. Hit OK. And now the text is along the bottom of the text box. It's aligned with the margin on the right side, and it's aligned with the margin on the bottom. However, that's not what we need for the assignment instructions. This says to go into the margin, the 2.5-inch margin, the text needs to go in that margin 1 inch off the edge of the page. So to do that, there's a couple of ways to do it. One is to click and drag the text box down to the edge of the page. And now we're going to move it up 1 inch. To move it up, you just right click and we go to transform and move. And here we're going to move it up on the vertical, type 1 for 1 inch, and hit OK. Oh, and it moved it down. So we need to undo that. So to undo, you can type Control Z, or its equivalent on a Mac to undo. I'm going to do that again. Right click, transform, move, and I should have typed -1, -1 inch. Hit OK. And that now moved it up. The only thing I have left to do is to align it back with this side here. To do that, we want to make sure in the View menu, Grids and Guides, Smart Guides is turned on. Once it's turned on, you can click your text box, hold down Shift, and if you move it left or right, it's going to, holding down Shift does is it locks it to only slide it left and right, or only up and down, or it also has a 45-degree angle like that. So you kind of just have to find where it is by sliding it a little bit to the right until you see that green guide light up. That's the smart guide that's lighting up when I hit perfect alignment with the margin up in the top. When that happens, you can release, and this is now perfectly aligned. This is 1 inch off the bottom of the page. My margins are all 2.5 inches. I have the right number of boxes in the right number of columns and rows and the correct gutter. So at this point, I have finished setting up my page. I'm going to save my work and I'm ready to simply drop in my photos. To do that, I'm going to zoom in to any of my image boxes just to show an example of how you do. So the way an image box works, an image frame works, if you click on it once using the selection tool, you can see that the grip points appear. That means this box is selected. And when you do that, you can move it and you can accidentally move it. If you accidentally move it like that, out of alignment, you can use your smart guides, view, grids and guides, make sure that is on and just leave it on. You can use those smart guides to move this back into place. There, those green lines tell me that it's centered with the rows and the columns. And my snap to guides is also on, so that I could have also just released it when it snaps to this corner, to these top and left sides. That'll be the same for anything. If you accidentally move any of your text boxes, just move them back into place until they snap and align perfectly using those two options. If you accidentally delete any of your text boxes, then you'll need to create a copy of any other ones. Select it by clicking once with the selection tool, hold down Alt, and then click and drag the copy over. Once that is snapped to its position, release the copy and you're done. So image frames are like little windows. To activate them, you must double click. So if you don't double click, the image frame is going to look blue even when you select it. All the grips are blue. But as soon as you double click using the selection tool, let me see why it's not working. Oh, it's not working because it's empty. We need to put something in the image frame. So let's go over to our folder where we have our letters. And I'm going to move it off to the side here. There's a couple of different ways to do it. One way is you can just open your folder and click and drag the picture you need and drop it in the image frame. Once you drop it, you can see it's filling the image frame. It's really pixelated and part of it is off the edge, and that's fine. Don't worry about it. We're going to fix that in a minute. The other way to add pictures to your image frame is to use the selection tool to select the image frame by clicking once. Select the image frame that you want to work with. Go to the File menu. Select Place or hit Control D. And this will open a window that allows you to look for the file that you need, select it, and hit Open. And that also filled the image frame with that file. Now, the reason why both of these look pixelated is because they're really large. They're bigger than the image frame. And now, if I, using the selection tool, if I double click on the image frame, just double click, you can see that the image frame here doesn't light up anymore. What lights up is the image frame. which is invisible beyond the image frame itself. The edge of the image is over here. If I scroll out a little bit, you can see the full size of the image is this brown box. And I'm only seeing this little bit as if I was looking through a window. If I click on any of these grip points and I drag, I can resize the image, but if you do it like this, you can see that you're going to distort your image. So I'm going to undo, and I'm going to do it again from a corner. Click and drag the corner while holding down Shift button. If you hold down Shift, then it locks the proportions, and you can then resize your image to whatever you need. You can click and drag inside the image frame here, not out here, but inside the image frame to reposition, and then grab, hold down Shift, and adjust that size again until you have the right size letter that you want without distorting the image, with your letter centered, and use the pan tool to reposition it. We might want to zoom in a little to see better. So see how I'm moving the image, not the image frame. The image frame is staying in its place. I'm just moving the image frame. Another faster way of doing this is by using the selection tool. So I just released the selection. Use the selection tool. Click once on your image frame. So there's the blue frame now. Let me double click. If you're in the image frame view right here with the brown frame, just double click on it again to go back to the image frame. So double click, brown means the edge of the photo. Double click, blue means the edge of the image frame. So I want the image frame like this. If you don't have it selected, just click on it once to select it. Right click, go to fitting, and we're going to use fill frame proportionally. And that is going to reduce the size of the image as much as it needs to fill completely. It's not centered though. So if you do it like this, you're going to have to then double click to go to the image and just fix the size a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And then just pan it to center it, so that the right and the left side are about the same as the top and the bottom of your letter. And every part of the image frame should be filled. Right now, I'm missing a little bit at the top. So I'm going to have to make it just a tiny little bit bigger. Right there, grab that grip point, holding down Shift, made it get bigger. And now it fills the image frame. So there's one letter. Let's do the next one. Right, left click once using the selection tool, right click, hit fitting, fill frame proportionally, fills it as big as it'll fit to fill the image frame. This one is almost ready. It's pretty well centered already. So I don't think I need to do very much, but if you do, double click, adjust the corners of the image however much you want. Click outside the box to release it. and that's 2 letters now. So you're going to repeat the process with the rest of the letters in your alphabet, and the rest of your page is already laid out. So the final part is going to be, don't forget to save your work every once in a while. Once you finish with all of your letters, or if you're just showing a draft, all the letters that you have, and you're ready to generate a PDF printout, you go to File. It's probably going to ask you to save first. That's why I just saved it. Go to File, select Print near the bottom. And because we already set up our page, we really don't need to do very much in the print window. We're just going to make sure that all these options are correct. Yeah, we only need 1 copy. We need to print a page. All of the document is fine because it only contains 1 page. We don't need to specify a range of pages. We want to print the page, yes. And we don't want to print any guides or anything. Under printer, you want to make sure that you have your Adobe PDF or your PDF printer set up as selected as your printer. And all these other options, you can leave them in their default setting. Under setup, if you selected 24 by 36 inch page, we want to make sure that under setup, your paper size matches. So this is in letter, that's incorrect. We need to match that. 24 by 36 inches is also called arc D. Arc D is 24 width, 36 height, portrait orientation. Everything looks good. Scale, we don't need to rescale it. 100% is fine because we designed it at 100% of that size page. Everything is ready. You can hit print. And this might take a few seconds. When it's ready, it's going to go to that folder where you saved. We're going to find that folder where we saved our file. And I'm going to save it right here because I want to keep everything in one place. So this is now a PDF file. Hit save. And it's going to create the PDF. And there it is. So there's my text in the bottom. And so far, the 2 photos that I have added. So that's what I have so far. You can go to your folder, your working folder. Let's go up 1 level. And you can see here your PDF that I just created, your InDesign document working file. And this other IDLK file is a temporary file that gets created when you have your InDesign working file open. So if I save this and close your working file, this file should disappear. There it goes. So you should have your PDF, which is what you're going to take and post into concept board and also submit on Canvas. And I will record a separate tutorial on how to do that. But to wrap it up, something that could go wrong if you're not careful is when you print this, you could see the wrong size images on your page. Possible causes of that problem could be that you selected the wrong page size, either when you set up the page or when you set up the printing. remember that you have to select 24 by 36 when you set up the page and start working. And then also make sure that in the print window under setup, that is also selected as the page size. And if so, your print should be perfect and ready to pin up. So that's the end of this tutorial, and I will continue the next tutorial with how to pin this up onto concept board.